All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be joined today on a snowy, icy Monday here in the nation's capital's burbs. And Carlos, we're pretty close, right? Are you just north of? You're on the 95 corridor, are you not? Just north of DC?
Yeah, just a little bit north. And it is snowy out here, snowing and freezing, and streets are covered.
It's bad, and I got to tell you, though, I was a little disappointed. I mean, the snow totals, they had been talking about maybe 2 feet in some places. I think we got maybe 6 or 8 inches. Then there's just all this kind of crunchy, sleety stuff. It's gross. But at least no power outages here. Nope. I assume you got your power, obviously.
Yep. No, power is good. Haven't even heard of someone who has had the power out. And I'll say, yeah, right now it's just ice. And I always say this every time in Maryland, we always talk about how, oh my gosh, it's going to be a blizzard, all that. It winds up being like half a foot of snow. And then we're all like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
You think we were sold a bill of goods? You think they kind of, it was like telling, oh, you're going to get this great big storm, right. And then you got like a little. But it was a lot of precipitation, but much of it in the form of sleet, so you don't get the really high snow totals.
And then you got a whole lot of ice now. I saw some people post on social media that really a lot of these, like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a blizzard, is pumped up by like probably like the companies who want us to buy a lot of stuff, or they're sitting there like, oh my gosh, a bunch of groceries are about to be expired. Y'all come get your groceries because it's going to be a blizzard. So I don't know.
That in the media too, they hype it because then everyone's tuned in breathlessly. Yeah. It's like a war or something. You got to know what's going on. Anytime there's a disaster, ratings go up. Carlos, what about a couple of quick questions for you? Now you've got relative. I don't want to be too specific. I don't tell people who everyone's business, but you do. You have ties, shall we say, to Charles County, where I understood there might be more ice and freezing rain. Did that happen?
No, yeah. It was just like right now, my family is basically saying that like they're not they went out to kind of try to shovel today, and they're like, yeah, no, it's just ice out there. Like it's just ice on the. But
they didn't lose power.
Streets. No, nobody lost power.
Well, that was the fear, right? The ice freezes on the power lines, and we didn't have that.
It's
really
just,
good.
Right now, it's just driveway, streets are actually really good, but like driveways covered. And yeah, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna stay in the house. I'll let someone thaw out, maybe.
What was that's the same here. My wife says she may not have school all week, which I think is kind of crazy. They should, by tomorrow, their schools are canceled. I even think they cancel those prematurely, but really? I get it. There's still a lot of ice. Some of the neighborhoods are hard to get to, but it's not really that bad in my view. I spoke to Carlos Friday. I was driving up to New York, came back very late Saturday to beat the storm, and you were at a store. What was it packed? Were the shelves empty?
Oh, shelves were like meats and things empty. Couldn't find a thing. Everything else like mostly was stocked up. Breads were almost out. But yeah, like most of the groceries were stocked up. Stores weren't. Yes, they were. Stores, when I went out late to get like some like last minute things, they weren't crazy. But when I went out Friday at like 3:00, I'm talking about lines were from the front of the store to almost like the back of the store. Just people just in line with a whole bunch of stuff. It's always crazy when you're like, I went to other stores to get all my stuff. I just need 2 things from here. Like, and there'd be like an express line or something. But yeah, no, people were buying things up at the grocery stores.
Well, my wife told me she went to Costco, she went to Giant, and she went to Trader Joe's because she needed a bunch of different stuff, and none of the stores had all of it. Now, that's sort of how she shops anyway. She's always looking for which place has the best prices, and so that juggles. But
stuff at certain places.
Yeah, well, the butter's cheaper here, the eggs there, that kind of thing. But actually, both the butter and eggs are cheaper at Costco, as I understand it. But some items, milk.
Well, I'll say one other thing too, because I had some family who went to like Home Depot, Lowe's, and they're like, for some reason, the hardware stores were just packed too with people. So I think you also get those like people who are like, hey, if I'm gonna be out of commission for the next week, I might as well do some household projects and something to keep my time up.
Also, I think getting snow shovels. I think that was the
Oh,
big reason for people, and also the salt, the rock salt for
I didn't
your
think about that.
driveways and your walkways. So I think those are two. And some people buy the snow blowers; those wouldn't really be useful with the ice. But yeah, it's good for the merchants. I think the stock market's up there. I don't know whether there was a run on stores. Maybe that helped. So a lot to talk about with Carlos. And I called you. You kind of talked me off the ledge. I was feeling guilty after the Friday program, the free-for-all. I was talking about, and we're going to get to ICE because we have this horrible shooting. It's even worse. And I'm going to talk about that a lot this week with Carlos for sure. And then Friday, with Wednesday, hump day with former retired U.S. attorneys, assistant U.S. attorney Steve Snyder. So we'll get to that this week. But yeah, I was feeling bad about the Minneapolis situation, talking about how ICE goes into churches and on church grounds and arrests people, comparing that with the protesters who went into the Minneapolis church, which I said I thought that was protected by First Amendment rights. You did too. I thought that was a morally just action that was taken by Levy Armstrong, the former Black Lives Matter protester, and I think NAACP president of the Twin Cities chapter as well. I thought that was the right thing to do. I still do. She did break the law. I didn't say that there is a law. We talked about this. You can't disrupt church services. That is illegal.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I'm still surprised by that because I just feel okay. I think when we say illegal, my mind goes to, yes, I understand it is an illegal thing to do. I just thought it stops at like trespassing charges. So like you just get a fine. They tell you, hey, you can't, trespass in this area. I didn't know it was like you disrupting church service specifically is a crime.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the Justice Department, which clearly is, I believe, incompetent as well as cruel and inhuman, did not charge the Nikema Levy Armstrong with specific crime of disrupting church services, but rather with conspiring to deprive others of the right to practice religion. She can't do that. She's not a government actor. She wasn't a police officer. It's the police. It's anybody who works for the federal government or for a state government who has power, who can take away your civil rights. So I couldn't, if I break into your house, that's not, and search it. That's not an illegal search that violates your due process. It's just breaking and entering. It's still a crime, but it's not, I didn't take away your civil right to due process. Only a police officer can do that. The one exception, I believe, is the right to vote. So if you're trying to disrupt people's right to vote, that is depriving them, even if you're an individual. So they didn't even charge Nikema Levy Armstrong correctly in the first go round. Maybe they will. I don't, who knows?
I don't know. I don't even think the Justice Department honestly cares. I think it's like a photo op thing. We do it. If the charges just get dropped or dismissed, they're like, all right, cool, we'll let that happen. Who cares?
Well, they may want to make her a poster child, right? This is what happens to you when you challenge us. And she did take on the ICE supervisor, who is a pastor at that church. That was the reason for confronting him there. And I think they, people there, Pam Bondi and Trump, they're going to want to make an example. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll just be forgotten with all the latest, this cold-blooded killing in Minneapolis. Even worse than the Renee Good murder, I think. Very, very, very upsetting. Carlos. So I asked the question, this is, by the way, the question, worse now, how do ICE goons compare to segregationist Southern sheriffs? And I do want to give a shout out to friend of the program. I call him a friend because he watches, he comments. He hasn't been on, but please, if you're watching now, Don, we'd love to hear from you. 240-242-5646. Carlos giving the thumbs up. Let me see if I can get my slide up. I would seem to have so much trouble, and now it's just me. Carlos, let me get you on there too, Carlos, if I can. See, this is what I'm looking at, but we got to put Carlos on as well. That's why he's here to help us. There you go. So Mass Congressman Seth Moulton making the comparison between state-sponsored terrorism in the 1950s, 60s, civil rights era and what we're seeing on the streets of Minneapolis today. Your reaction to that, Carlos?
I mean, headline is, I just find it weird that like a white congressman is commenting on this like this. Like, I guess I don't understand why so many people are trying to even make the comparison to the civil rights era, state-sponsored, state and somewhat federal government sponsored violence, and why instead they just don't talk about it like, hey, here's what's happening and this is wrong. I want to also say that I don't know how much I would say what happened during the civil rights era wasn't as bad as what's happening now, because you also had people who were dying. You had honestly mobs of state police officers, sheriffs, and things of that nature openly, and not just themselves as the state coming in and killing Black people. You had the state almost basically allowing other civilians to kill black people. So I don't know, because you don't see here really like what's happening with ICE. Really, the federal government saying, all right, cool, Proud Boy protesters, go ahead and kill anti-ICE protesters. You kind of see it. This is just the federal government coming in and killing people as well. So I don't know if I'm gonna say it's worse or which one's worse. I think it's both.
Or even should they be compared? Yeah. I think it's a really, I got to say, I think it's a really interesting question. And you're Black, and some of the folks on Don's page who were commenting are Black, and they were, I think, upset by the question. They felt that you can't compare the two. You had Jim Crow laws for 70 years, whatever, after 80 years, after Reconstruction and more, you had lynching. But I think if you look at it narrowly, there's some interesting aspects to the question. That's why I put it up. There's a focus on state-sponsored terrorism during the civil rights era. So much of the lynchings we saw, the absolute terrorism against Black people during Jim Crow, was by private citizens, not necessarily law enforcement. You had sheriffs, you had deputies who were part of the Klan. They would be wearing their masks, much like the ICE thugs are wearing masks now often, but they weren't acting as state actors. What would happen is exactly what you said. The sheriffs would not investigate. They would overlook it. The juries would never convict. There was a rare trial. You couldn't get a conviction if you even tried. And if you did try and you were a prosecutor, you would never get reelected if you didn't get run out of town on a rail. So there was an entire society that was conspiring against civil rights for Black people, to determine to keep them as second class, not even citizens, keep them subordinate. So that's not quite what we're seeing today. But in terms of the actual actions by the state, the federal government now is clearly the bad guy. They are killing people. They are getting away with it. The federal government is trying to do everything to shield them, much as we saw during especially the early civil rights era, where we saw people getting murdered. We had the civil rights workers getting shot. We had people like Medgar Evers getting killed. So yes, it was terrible then. And some different aspects, federal government can be the good guy, could be on occasion, as well as the bad guy during civil rights. Right now, I think the feds are just the bad guys. States here, Minnesota, other states, actually seem like they're trying to protect citizens, which is the opposite of what we saw in much of the South.
No, you're right.
As I understand it.
No, you're right. One thing I will add to that, though, about the state side, while yes, you did have, in large parts, you had kind of state sanctioned officers performing as, I guess you could say, private citizens when doing some of these lynchings as well. You also had the state also come in and participate in killing. And it's kind of hard for me to disassociate or separate the kind of state-sponsored killings from also some of these private killings as well, because the people knew that the sheriff, the local fire chiefs and things, that they were a part of it. So it's also like, while you're not going in saying, oh, I'm the sheriff doing X, Y, and Z, you still hold that role and you hold that authority of the state with you as well. And then also, as you said before, you have people like J. Edgar Hoover persecuting Martin Luther King, the FBI case around Malcolm X, all the civil rights leaders, and not even just civil rights leaders. Like Aretha Franklin had like an FBI profile on her from them following her. Billie Holiday, Dick Gregory, like just different comedians and just civil rights leaders, as far as that as well. And then what we see now is we see the federal government coming in and just in killing people. They are killing people, and I would say that they are also pushing their own form of like anti-First Amendment protesting as well. We see very, very, very clear similarities. I will say some of the what's the word, like voraciousness, I don't think that that's a word either, but like some of the like harshness is a little different, because we also remember seeing like the marches during civil rights, where people were getting sicked on by dogs, yes, but also hosed with fire hoses and things of that nature. And we're not seeing that form of like violence as well, or when we are seeing it, it is a smaller scale than what we did before.
Do you think it in a way diminishes the Black American experience to try to compare it with what we're seeing?
I do. I think that it is I mean, we live in a country that already kind of like devalues Black pain. So I feel like adding on that, oh, this is worse than what they went through, it also kind of whitewashes what people actually went through as well. Because as even as we're talking, I'm remembering more things that happened, where you had people going to jail in mass just from protesting too, just from sitting at a lunch counter, you could be jailed. Where here you're not seeing this whole mass of people going to jail. You're not seeing a mass of people being murdered, either by private citizens or by the federal government, which the federal government is murdering people, just not in mass in the same ways. So yeah, I do think it diminishes, but it kind of whitewashes it in a way to make it sound like, oh, things were bad, but they weren't as bad as it is now. And I think to a point, some people are saying it's so bad now just because they're physically living through it.
Well, I mean, everyone's going to always take their experience as, it's going to be centered. Most people do center their own experience. And again, I think there's some interesting parallels and comparisons. I generally don't like to compare horrors. I know a lot of Jewish people will say, well, the Holocaust was the greatest crime. I'm not going to say that. I never say that. I say, hey, there's a lot of horrible crimes. I don't know. I'm not going to say that the Holocaust is worse than the transatlantic slavery dynamic, where you had millions, many, many, many more millions of people who were impacted for many more years. I'm not going to compare. I mean, these are terrible things. What European Americans did to the native tribes was a terrible thing as well. But I will say this is scary. I mean, you had a situation during the civil rights and really before. I mean, the violence in the civil rights era was a reaction by whites who were losing their supreme status legally in the South, and they didn't like it. They were really mad about it. What we're seeing now is a reaction against immigrants and people like that, and the violence is very bad. It's very scary. There's some things to learn, how we have to join together and unite, which we're seeing, by the way, in Minneapolis. Multiracial, multi-ethnic communities who are together fighting against this cruelty. That image, by the way, I think I got it on the Reuters website. The man on the ground is the victim, Alex Preddy, who was, by the way, a nurse who was ministering to veterans. He was a legal gun owner. His gun had been seized. He was not a threat to anybody when he was basically executed while he was on the ground.
Yeah, he was killed by the state, by the federal government, which is a state too. But yeah, by the state. And I also, this is disgusting. And I'll say I'm getting flashbacks, and I hope it doesn't have the same outcome, but I'm getting flashbacks to the Black Lives Matter movement, when you had just people from all races, all ethnicities, kind of all different socioeconomic stances, which kind of goes to my later point of the problem with it. I'm just hoping that this is not another one of those movements that get co-opted into just saying, hey, the biggest thing is make ICE take their mask off, have more training, get body cameras. And then we look at that and say that's a win. Or, hey, remember, it's 2028 now. We need a Democrat to win, so we need you all to stop talking so much about this.
Well, I've seen that for sure, and it's very upsetting. It's very, very troubling. I was wondering if you think there should. Well, let me just go through a little bit more before we talk. Well, just on this particular specific incident. So you see and you were talking about training. So the officer, I think, who was most responsible for killing Preddy was like a 6 or 8 year veteran. This was not like a brand new guy, like a Groiper or someone like that, right wing a person who just went in there. I want to go knock heads and kill immigrants. That may have been their motive, but they had been trained. They had been in the service for a while. And there you can see the total insensitivity at best, or amorality, sociopathy, whatever, sociopathy. Effing bitch is what the agent who shot Renee Good said. And then boo-hoo, that was confirmed. That was their sympathy for the man they executed.
I wonder if it's going to come out about how long these people had been ICE agents before. I know that they've been in, like you said, he was a veteran, but I just wonder how long had they been ICE officers, because this also goes to one of those bills coming up in the Maryland General Assembly about how ICE agents who were hired under this second Trump term would be barred from becoming state officers. And I was talking to Andy Ellis for my podcast, and like he was mentioning that, while that's nice, you also have ICE officers who were horrible under Obama, who were horrible under Trump 1, Joe Biden before that. So everyone's not coming to it now as like, oh, if you were ICE before that, you were great. Now it's just these set of officers. Right.
Well, we're going to get to Obama. He and his wife actually issued Michelle Obama, which is his wife. So she's got a name. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama issued a statement against ICE. And I thought it was a really good statement as far as it goes. I have some real issues with it. And I'm sure, Carlos, after my conversation with you about President Obama, you're going to probably see my point more than his, but we'll get to it.
How he was the greatest president we've ever had.
Well, we've had 2 black presidents, the first black president, Bill Clinton, and now Obama. And I have to say they've both been disappointing, unfortunately.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to, and the thing is about that is they have their policies, even if, and this is why I don't like identity politics, Carlos, more than any other reason. Because if you practice it with the idea, the person that I elect, I want them to look like me or, associate with me. Bill Clinton was a poor white guy from the South who was a liberal. So I think black people, and he did have black friends. Had black, and people say, oh, I have black friends. He had black friends. But he still wasn't good for black people. His policies were bad, very bad, as a matter of fact. And sadly, the real black president, in terms of his color of his skin, was not also particularly good for black people. And I think that's why I have a problem with identity politics. If your identity politics say, hey, I'm black, I care about black people, then that's fine. But then you got to vote for the person whose policies will be best for black people. It's like people said, well, you have to vote for Hillary if you're a woman, but Bernie was better for women.
Yeah,
that's
right?
That's where I get angry.
Yeah, Carlos. You can't just judge it off of someone's race or just someone looking like you. And I would even say past looks. You can't just judge because someone was a poor person before that, oh, they're going to stand up for working class people or poor people's interests. A lot of times they they
You mean like
don't.
Clarence Thomas, right? Because he was really poor.
Yeah, like Clarence Thomas. Yeah, Clarence Thomas was poor. Tim Scott was really, really poor. A lot. Cory Booker talks about.
J.D. Vance says he was poor, but he really wasn't. But he said he was, but
he had poor family.
Not true.
He said my family was poor.
Yeah,
not me.
And not when they had him. He was actually, they were a little more. Maybe they lived in a poor community. He's the hillbilly thing, but they were like privileged within that community. Let's put it that way. As I understand it.
Yeah, you're the.
Wasn't Clinton poor? Wasn't Bill Clinton poor?
I think he know. I didn't.
The man from Hope.
Maybe
he was.
Everyone, you know what else too? I love how politicians always kind of bring up. Yeah, he was. I love how politicians always bring up how like I grew up working class, I grew up poor, and all that. And then some of them who you like start to learn about their life is like you grew up middle class. You just like if you grew up middle class, just say you grew up middle class. We need class traitors just as much as we need directly impacted people.
Yeah, no, I mean even AOC, she went to a much more. She didn't actually go to high school. She was talking about, I think, growing up in the Bronx or wherever, but she actually went to high school in Westchester. Now, she was not from a wealthy family, but she still kind of shaded her background a little bit. Yeah,
like she had a middle class family where I think her dad owned a business. Mother had a good job. She went to school. She majored in either micro or macro economics. Like she painted herself as just a bartender. Like that's all I am. And that's where I was like, no, she should give herself some credit. Look at all the other skills and accolades that you have. She worked at startups and stuff.
Yeah, it's frustrating when the folks misrepresent their history. It's very disappointing. And again, even when they are legit, I mean, truly legit, Ben Carson has an incredible story. I mean, this was a guy who grew up in very, very poor neighborhood, I believe in Baltimore. And he was a great doctor, great surgeon, groundbreaking. But even that story, it's true, but his policies really wouldn't help the people like him. No. So that's what I think you have to work. That's what I always talk about policy. That's what I care about. I don't, other stuff. FDR was the very elite. He was his policies were good for poor people. I don't know if he cared about them, but his policies were good. Same LBJ was not wealthy. It was from the middle class, lower middle class, white Southern family. But he did some really good things for
pass civil rights legislation, even though he was known as kind of a racist man too. I mean, like people have mixed histories and people have mixed lives, and just tell the truth about who you are, and then just keep it pushing with your policies. I mean, just because you look like someone, or just because someone comes from the same kind of background as you, doesn't mean that they care about you, but also it doesn't mean that they know what's the best solution for things either, because you have extremely poor people who get into office, and just because of the way that they came up to have wealth, they think the way to get wealth for everyone is going to be like this capitalist route, when it's really not.
I did it, so if they don't do it, it's their problem.
On them. Yeah, it's on them. And all we need is some more business entrepreneur classes for people, and then they'll be all right.
Will this particularly ugly execution style killing by ICE gangsters, ICE thugs, will that move the needle? It seems like it has been a little bit, Carlos, against Trump. You see here, NRA local gun rights advocates reject Trump officials blaming Preddy for being armed. And you see the gun owners caucus saying, no, he had every right to bring that gun to the protest. And even if he didn't, he wasn't brandishing the weapon. He posed no danger to the officers who executed him. Will this make it? And I guess there's some people who are turning against Trump, but if you're one of those people, and I asked you this question, if you are so blinded by hatred of liberals and Democrats, because I think that's what is behind a lot of this from being posed, is that a lot of these Trump people, they just hate liberals so much. They're so bitter. They're so angry. They hate Democrats. They support the cold-blooded murder of peaceful, law-abiding Americans by federal government goons. This is my question. Would you say they suffer from liberal derangement syndrome, Democrat derangement syndrome, or I like to call them Trump idolaters because it's a false prophet, right? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Carlos.
Yeah, no, I think it's the third one. It's people who see Trump as like, I hate to say like their God because I don't think it goes to that extent. Maybe it does for some, but they see him as like a cult figure. I think that's what this is. I kind of find it funny to look online and see literally like diehard MAGA people talk about like say almost like anti-Second Amendment rhetoric, like, oh, you shouldn't be having a firearm at a protest. What do you have a gun for? What do you have all these magazines for? And I'm like, wait, weren't y'all the people who said everyone should have a gun and that's how to keep each person safe? So, and then it's also weird seeing, I guess you could say, liberals stand up for her, like, it's your right to have a gun. So it's just weird what we're seeing. I don't think this is going to change much because I just don't know if the political will is there to abolish ICE. I don't see that as really the political will. I think that right now you have rhetoric. I would love to see when it comes to actually like legislatively, will you have Democrats actually push for this? Will you see Republicans start to say like, okay, there has to be some kind of guardrails that we put up about this? I think we're in a hyper polarized area. I just don't think that both parties are meant for can meet the moment.
It's very sad. I agree with you. Sadly, but unsurprisingly, Carlos is correct. If you'd like to join us, maybe disagree with him, maybe disagree with me, we'd love to hear from you. 240-242-5646, 240-242-5646. Now, one thing I will say about whatever you say about President Obama, very intelligent man, very good writer. I mean, quite a difference from what we're seeing now. And frankly, what we saw, Joe Biden supporters from Biden. I mean, Biden was not, I don't believe he was impressive at any point, even before he went full dementia. So, I mean, there is value to have, I think, a president who can, speak in complete sentences and analyze issues. There's value, but ultimately, of course, in the end, it's whether their policies benefit us. Here's a statement by President and Mrs. Obama. I don't have all of it here, Carlos, but I'm going to just give my couple things. Killing of Preddy is a heartbreaking tragedy, a wake-up call to every American, regardless of party. So there he is going for your bipartisan route, trying to reach across the aisle, that many of our core values as a nation are under assault. I don't think there's any doubt that's accurate. I just have a little more to put up. It's actually a lot more here and this is only part. This is not the whole statement. Did you read this, by the way?
No.
Is this news to you?
No, I haven't. Yeah, this is fresh to me.
And I'll get your response before I share mine. Sometimes I don't like to do that. I like to put people on the spot and ask them to say, well, what do you think? Without telling them what I think. But I'm going to put you on the spot. I'll just say this. There's a lot I like here. I'll just say it that way. Okay. There was always a lot I liked in what President Obama had to say. For weeks now, people across the country have been rightly outraged by the spectacle of massed ICE recruits and other federal agents acting with impunity and engaging in tactics that seem designed. Well, they are designed. They are actually intimidating, harassing, provoking, and endangering the residents of a major American city. These unprecedented tactics, which even the top former lawyer of the Department of Homeland Security in the first Trump administration has characterized as embarrassing, lawless, and cruel, have now resulted in the fatal shootings of 2 U.S. citizens. And yet, rather than trying to impose some semblance of discipline and accountability of the agents they deployed, the president and current administration officials seem eager to escalate the situation while offering public explanations for the shootings that aren't informed by any serious investigation and that appear to be directly contradicted by video evidence. And he goes on in that vein and talks about how he takes heart from all the protests and people standing up. Do you think this is helpful? Do you think he was right to do this?
Yeah, it's right. Good for him to do. I also shrug my shoulders and say, what now? So what do we do with this? Because I think it's so nice that former President Obama comes out with Michelle Obama to write a statement. Here's what they think. I'm sorry. To me, I don't really care what you think. If you aren't calling on anything to be done legislatively, even protest wise or anything, I don't really care that you just have a statement that you want to put out, just expressing your heartfelt empathy. I'm sorry. Like, to me, save it for like prayers and thoughts and dreams. Like that's just not helpful. Now, if he were to come out and say we need to abolish ICE, even if he were to come out and say we need to pass legislation to stop masking and give body cameras or something, at least it's him actually saying something of substance that can actually make some semblance of change. This is just, I don't know, just well wishes.
Yeah, I want to go see if he does. Now, the thing that I remember most, I didn't give you the whole statement, Carlos, so that's maybe not fair to him or you. He definitely does promote the protesting. He says that's what he's really happy about. Let me put it up, because I guess at this point we're better off seeing the entire statement. But he does not call to abolish ICE. As you point out, that is not part of his rhetoric at this point. He is not doing that. He is saying he takes heart in all of the protests. That's the one thing he really takes heart in.
Like, what do you do with him taking heart in protests? Like what does that mean? He's happy to see it. Okay. And no one's doing it for him, but I don't know.
Well, I guess he thinks that maybe that'll make a change. That will make a change. But here, you won't be happy with the rest of it. I'll put it up right now, Carlos. This doesn't respond to your very legit concerns. Maybe we need to get you like on the hotline so you can, or the red phone. I think they call it the red phone, right? So here's what he wrote, the complete statement, as far as I can tell. This has to stop. I hope that after the most recent tragedy, admin officials will reconsider their approach and start finding ways to work constructively with Walz and Mayor Fry, state and local police, to avert more chaos and achieve legit law enforcement goals. Meantime, let's all draw support and inspiration, or support and draw inspiration from the wave of peaceful protests in Minneapolis and other parts of the country. They are a timely reminder that it's up to each of us as citizens to speak out against injustice, protect our basic freedoms, and hold our government accountable. So I told you, Carlos, you weren't going to like the rest of it any more than you liked the part I showed you.
I don't. This got worse for me. I guess one, it is well words. They are nicely. It's a nice soliloquy. On the other hand, I also say it's again elected officials or former elected officials basically telling the public it's on you all to fix this. This is not on any politician. This is not on anyone to do anything legislatively. You all need to come out and hold your government accountable, which is funny to me because which is funny to me because people a lot of times say go and hold your government accountable, but don't really tell you how or what to do. And I mean, I am not one to discourage protesting. I say people should protest. It is a good symbol. It in some instances does things. I also want to say I don't think protesting is going to fix this. I don't think people going out on the street protesting is going to make Trump say, you know what, I think we need to scale it back. Do I know what's going to make Trump scale it back? Not really. I don't know. I think it's going to be a legislative fix to this. I just don't know when that happens. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I get pissed off at Obama for that stuff because, dude, we worked our asses off. I did to get you elected.
Yeah.
And then you're saying that's not good enough? We can't expect you to do the right thing even after we work our butts off to get you in power? And you're just going to disband the organization, Obama for America, that actually, had some influence and power? You're just going to get rid of that, and then you're going to go bail out the big bankers and not the underwater homeowners? Don't tell us it's our fault. Don't tell us it's our fault that you're doing the wrong thing. That really irritates me, honestly. And also, there's another
problem was
go ahead.
That that the Obama for America wasn't signed off by his corporate donors. See, if you all just would have worked with the corporate donors, then it would have been, hey, let's keep you all going. But try to do some grassroots stuff yourself.
Yeah, you're like, hey, you want that pesky Medicare for all, and you're saying don't lock the bankers up. And no, we don't want to hear that. Yeah, no, it's very frustrating. Also, there's a real ivory tower aspect, I think, to President Obama now. He's got these, multi-million-dollar homes. He's got this compound in Martha's Vineyard, which is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. It's to die for. And I think in Chicago too, and Hawaii. They like to go to Hawaii, the Obamas. Well, he's from Hawaii, which is fine. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. But you're in rarefied air. It's the American people can't really, I don't think, empathize. We can't feel like you really empathize with us anymore. You've moved on. You've left us behind.
Yeah, and you see, he's not protesting. How he's not saying I'll be out there on the streets with you. He's saying you all as citizens go do that.
Well, here's my biggest beef. You know me. I want people to take responsibility. That's my thing. Mm-hmm. If you screw up, be honest. Don't point finger. No one likes, really, I don't think anyone likes the guy, and I know because this was me for most of my life, who points fingers, who blames everyone. Oh, it's your fault, right? Like, I remember they had this when I was a kid, there was a term that somebody coined about me. It was called a halibi. It's when I would come up with some explanation for why what I did wrong was somebody else's fault. So I get this. I am this person. And this is what I want him to do. Take responsibility. Say, yeah, I did some really bad things. I accelerated the militarization of our police. We're seeing these, basically paramilitary operations in the streets of our city. I helped do that. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I promoted the policies that impoverished or at least kept many working people down to the point where they're like blaming, scapegoating immigrants, and they're okay with killing people if they're viewed as protecting them. I want him to take responsibility because also by doing that, he leads the way to a better government party with better policies. And finally, hey, you know what? If I had promoted Bernie, he probably would have won, and then we wouldn't have gotten Trump in the first place.
Yep.
So I want to see him say, these are the things I did wrong. Just like I would have liked to have seen Hillary do that. I think maybe Obama has some self-awareness. She doesn't have any, but
I think all of these politicians, when you get to that stage of the game, I don't think any of them have the self-awareness, or if they do, they have no conscience to actually put it out there publicly. I think that, and also Obama wouldn't talk, like he's not going to reference how he has deported the most people as president either. Like he's not going to talk about how I am a part of this problem that led us here, but also what Kamala Harris isn't going to come out and Joe Biden are going to come out and say, yeah, we also pushed for kind of ICE to have all this historic funding as well. So
I mocked Harris, like, where's the wall? I don't see any wall here. Like she's making fun of him. And by the way, that is such a great point. Do you think then that it's legit for some Republicans and MAGA people to say, hey, you're a bunch of phony hypocrites. Obama's a great deporter. Now you're all right. Oh, those poor immigrants. You were happy to break up families back then too.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think, they have the right to say it too. I think a lot of people just do not like the way it is so displayed out to them that this is happening. I think you have a lot. I see this kind of like the abolish the police fight, or just the police accountability fight. I see it in the same way where it's like you have people are okay seeing black people get killed until they saw George Floyd. They saw it be such a strong, it's just a strong show of force by the state government to be able to execute someone, just like Renee Good. I think if we went back to the time when you just had Obama deporting people, you think a whole lot of people, that wasn't their main issue. They were like, okay, well, hey, he's the president. He does what he does. I think when it gets in people's face, they're upset about it. sadly enough, we see that is easily co-opted into these small measures, which kind of make people okay, and we never actually get back to holding the people accountable who set up this system in the first place, vis-a-vis Republicans and Democrats.
I hate to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it. So when George Floyd was murdered by police, the general reaction was, this is racist. This was a racist killing, that police don't do this to white people. And the fact that so many, especially on the right, don't give a crap proves their racism. Is that argument undermined by the fact that on the right, you have so many people who don't give a crap about two white American citizens who both also got brutally killed by law enforcement?
Well, I mean, in both examples you gave, it was kind of the right who didn't get who didn't care like about citizens getting killed. I guess, I don't know. I think that the same groups of people who care about Renee Good and I'm forgetting the other man's name, but getting killed by ICE are the same people who care about George Floyd getting killed by the police at the same time. I am concerned that in the end, what happened with Black Lives Matter is going to happen again with the anti-ICE protests as well. Yeah,
I think it's complicated. Alex Purdy is the nurse who got killed by the officer while in custody. I definitely think there's racism, not denying that at all. I think that the fact that George Floyd was black was part of the reason that many didn't care. But I also think there's other factors. There's also the fact, and you could say this is part of the racism, is that both Purdy and Good were perceived as standing up for immigrants, especially immigrants, Latino immigrants or Somali, because there's a big Somali, which is black African population. It's a little more complicated than just white black. There's more that plays into it. You have an authoritarian personality that opposes anyone who's perceived as standing up to law enforcement, regardless of their the color of their skin. And I think that's part of the reason that you saw Trump get support from some communities of color, not to complete, not 50%, but among Latino men, close. So I think that's part of what we're seeing with Trump. And so that's kind of always why I say, let's just talk about healthcare. Let's talk about, seriously, let's talk about jobs. Let's talk about affordability. I want to just pivot to talk about us, and not that we don't. I'm saying Obama should take responsibility. I don't want him to point fingers. I don't like when people point fingers at others. That's what I used to do. That's a alibi. Larry here, and I'm going to show him, even though a lot of times I don't like to out people, but Larry's an old, so I don't know how old you are. I think you are actually pretty old, Larry, to be honest with you, but I don't remember exactly how old. Old friend from my California days. And he used to be a big supporter, big fan of my program. Not so much. Here's what he has to say. The predominant opinion is F anybody who voted third party and helped create the current situation America's in. Hal is one of those. Why does Hal opine when he abdicated his responsibility in the last election? Please find comfort, says Larry, in your irrelevance. Well, I'm sorry I lost you I know you're not a fan, Larry, but you did say one point you were never going to comment again. At least you're commenting, so I appreciate it very much. But so are we, Carlos, you too were not a supporter of the Democrat in the last election, or maybe the one before the one. So do we have to apologize like we want Obama to, and Hillary to, and Harris to, and all that?
Not at all.
Do we have some blame? Are we to blame?
I think the people who want an apology should hold their breath and wait. Because who knows? You may get it. No, we do not owe anyone a single apology because, one, again, we live in Maryland. Our vote for a third party did not do anything for...
Well, I'm on the air, though. I mean, talking half a dozen people every day demanding that they not vote for... Tell them how that Kamala is.
I think that to be honest, voting for either Republican or Democrat is kind of like, just, do you want the in your face horribleness or do you want quiet horribleness? And I also say people who vote third party, you have minuscule amounts of people who vote third party who would in any other circumstance vote for a Democrat. And I'm sorry, but we cannot continue this whole thing of like, oh, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils, because at the same time, I don't even think it is as serious as lesser of two evils. What it actually is do you want to just slow roll this, or do you want to fast track it? Because either way, you're getting something horrible. And I mean, this was set up already when it comes to ICE specifically, because you have Kamala Harris, who pushed that if she got in office, she would pass the ICE funding bill that supersedes their funding, helps militarize them. But at the same time, now you have Trump acting on it. So it's kind of six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. And I think people who do vote third party, they're actually ones who are trying to build up another movement to combat the fascism and the oligarchy that currently run our government.
Yeah, that's where I am too. And I also would say to those who blame me or blame Stein voters, at least with respect to me, I didn't vote, for example. I will not vote for a candidate I think is going to make things, keep making things worse. And that was what we've seen from both parties. They have made things worse. I did vote for Al Gore because I thought he would make things better. It's not that I thought he's that much less bad than W. W was really bad. I mean, he was really, really bad.
We saw he was. Yeah, he really was.
He was terrible. I mean, torture, right? I mean, that totally fake war with Iraq, based on false premises, did such bad things. But, if I thought Gore was going to be a bad president, a bad guy, do harm, I probably wouldn't have voted for him. But I didn't. That's not how I perceived it. Carlos, you know what? I don't have a slide for this, but now I want to bring it up. Apparently, this is true. This is a true fact, although I don't have the slide. American murder rate, the overall murder rate in America in 2025 was the lowest per capita in 125 years. This country is safer than it's been since the 1950s. 125 years, right? So safe as it's been since about 1910. I don't think it was so safe then. I don't know why it would have been safe then. There was a lot of crime, gangsters, all that. But it's been a long time since it was as safe to walk down the streets. Certainly for Baltimore. Baltimore has been a very dangerous city for a long time. It's much safer now.
Oh, 100%.
Carlos, Trump is taking a victory lap. His supporters are. Do we have to grudgingly give him some credit for this?
No, I mean, not really. I kind of think a lot of times when crime does go down, I look at the local governments as kind of the ones who are doing that. Especially you look in Baltimore with the use of violence interrupters and kind of taking a community approach by putting more community services in. That's definitely a local government push. I think it's a local government that kind of deters crime, that quote unquote deters crime or stops people from getting to the point where they have to commit crimes. Now, when it comes to the federal government, I look and say things like the child tax credit was definitely helpful to people who commit crimes, like some of these economic help. Even I'll give Trump credit when he worked with Congress to stop student loan payments. That was definitely a help, probably to help deter crime, because some people who had to commit crimes be able to put food on the table because they have to pay for their student loans and things of that nature as well.
Yeah, the right, of course, is claiming that deploying National Guard troops and the ICE presence is keeping people who would otherwise commit crimes in their homes. Apparently, that is not a good. It doesn't pass the test, because the logical test, because we have many cities where crime rates have dropped significantly, where we didn't have ICE, where we didn't have National Guard. This is part of a long-term trend, but it is definitely accelerated. And I will say this: if it had been a more progressive president, a liberal president, I would certainly be looking for ways to give them credit if they pursued policies I liked. That said, Brandon Scott, not my favorite mayor, right? He's done some really good things when it comes to just what you said, community policing, more, violence, de-escalation,
Yep.
right? It's a de-escalation policy rather than just sending in, the SWAT team or whatever, the paramilitary. So that is good. There's also the fact that we do live in an increasingly surveilled society. There's video cameras everywhere. It's much easier to catch people. We don't need to rely on witnesses and their very frequently faulty recollections. You actually have the camera often of the crime committed. So that makes a difference. So there's a lot of factors. But yeah, all right, it happened during Trump's presidency. In at least the trend has accelerated. So, okay, I won't blame him for raising crime rates, but I saw this when I was in Monterey. We saw crime rate dropping in the 20-aughts, and I talked to the sheriff, who was a liberal, who's a progressive, who's a progressive sheriff, and he said, I said, "Do you get credit? What kind of credit? Better policing?" He said, "Yeah, we do. We're better. We're better now. We're better at solving crimes." He said, "But these trends are very hard to understand what's going on. And there could also be factors that happened a decade earlier that have nothing to do with anything we're doing now." So I thought that was a good answer.
Yeah, I think we really as a society try to understand why certain things happen. And I think sometimes it's like we just don't, it just happened. It happened, it's lower. Next year it could rise again. I mean, there's no this honestly, some of the lowering could be just a balancing of COVID stuff. So we don't know.
Yeah, I do think a lot of it is the surveillance. It's harder to commit crimes. You're more likely to be observed, and then you're arrested, and you can't commit more because a small percentage of arrestees commit the majority of crimes. So once they're caught, that does reduce the crime rate. So I think that's a big factor. But all right, a few more points, Carlos. We have a few more minutes. I post this kind of getting into social media, but yeah, the Democrats. So this is really, really bad. Well, let's stick with ICE for just a minute more. I'm kind of jumping around. I apologize for that. But this goes along with your claim or your statement that we shouldn't take blame for not supporting Harris, for not supporting Democrats. We shouldn't be taking blame for Trump because the Democrats are, really bad as well. So before the shooting of Preddy in Minneapolis, the House approved DHS funding at basically stable levels. CHS is the agency that oversees ICE. They maintained ICE funding, and several Democrats supported that bill. And what's also interesting is that even though Hakeem Jeffries voted against it, he agreed with separating out ICE funding so it could get a clean vote rather than bundling it with an overall spending package that a number of Republicans opposed. If he had kept it bundled, they would have had a better opportunity to vote it out, to vote down funding, reduce it. So the Democrats are complicit in funding ICE.
Yeah, not just ICE, the whole military industrial complex here. Yeah, and even Hakeem Jeffries was saying that he would not whip votes against it in the Democratic caucus. It's kind of one of those like, hey, you vote the way you want to vote. I'm gonna let people do them. And I'll also say I think this is just a whole lot easier for some Democrats to vote against it because the election's coming up / they're in the minority. I mean, Democrats, it's hard to say that Democrats didn't want this just 2 years ago. That this wasn't Democrats' plan when it was wrapped up with Israel funding, Taiwan funding, and Ukraine funding. So,
well, it's their attitude. It always seems to be, hey, vote for us. We're a little less bad. We're going to go right up to being as bad as they are, but not quite as bad.
Yeah, a nice little viewpoint to say, oh, it's worse over there, but hey, here we have one less bomb that we're going to set off.
Yeah, that's right. We're not going to drop the 1 ton bombs. We'll just drop a lot of. We'll drop 3 500-pound bombs instead of 1 1 ton bomb. That seems to be the policy.
About that.
Right, there's Bernie. He's got his. By the way, I saw Bernie on, I think it was the show with Colbert, the Colbert Show, and he, whatever else you say about this old guy, he was pretty sharp. I mean, he's kept it together, the brain, a lot better than some of these oldsters like Trump now, confusing Greenland and Iceland, and not that he was ever that sharp.
I'm sure he doesn't know which one it is. I'm sure he's just like, whatever that landmass is that people tell me we need to get.
I want it. There's a lot of ice in Greenland, or there's a lot of green in Iceland or something, so they're the same, I guess.
There's something in this area, and I don't even care if there's nothing in the area. I just want it now because someone told me.
I've heard about it. I want it. So here we see Senate Democrats after the vote to fund ICE that the Democrats allowed to go forward and knowing it would pass occurred prior in the House to the killing of Alex Purdy. But now Senate Democrats are vowing to oppose this DHS bill. They may be able to stomp it if they put their shoulder to the wheel. They can stomp it. Do you think they will?
It's hard to believe because I just have such a low expectation. Like, it's hard to believe that however many, whether it's like 8 or 9 Senate votes that they would need, it's hard that they just won't find those senators and they'll be like, hey, these are the bad senators this time because they can't stand up against ICE funding. Or it's going to be the ones who are retiring out or who just don't, or who are like 6 years away from their reelection. They're going to find the like easy ones to let this go through, because I think you're going to have the military industrial complex basically like, you're not going to defund us. Like you're not gonna not give money to weapons and other parts of homeland security. So yeah.
Do you think that these corporations, the military contractors and the like, do you think they have actual leverage in terms? Because what Matt Gaetz said is when the Congress members go to Israel for their little tours, the Mossad or the whatever they are, they search their rooms, right? And they search their cell phones. They actually take the phones and they go through them and they see if they find anything. Do you think that's what's happening domestically as well? Like with some of these 100%. Military contractors and ICE contractors, that they're threatening lawmakers if they don't support them?
Oh, 100%. I think that there is a whole host of, and then this gets in my conspiracy brain, a whole host of blackmail that goes on within Congress. I think that especially when you have lobbying groups and just different corporations who hold these like extravagant parties for legislators, you can't tell me a bunch of alcohol, drugs, and you don't have some legislators getting into something that they probably shouldn't be, that their constituents would be upset or they would just be embarrassed if it came out. So they're going to support a bill. I don't know which is greater. I don't know whether the blackmail is greater than the campaign donations or the PAC donations. I don't know which one is greater, but I think they both play a part in why legislators vote horribly a lot of times.
So fear and greed are their primary motivators, not a desire to improve the lives of their constituents.
I think they feel like the constituent. I think most elected officials do not think of their constituents in a way that we all like to talk about, as if politicians think like, oh, how will this affect my constituents? I think people think, even as elected officials, in sense of themselves first and then maybe their family. And outside of that, they really don't care too much about constituents, from my opinion.
Oh, you're so disillusioning me, Carlos. I had these, come on, they're Jamie Raskin, all these, Sarah Elfreth, she really cares service. About Israel. It's not like all that $8 million that she got. That's why she's doing. Here it is. U.S. House approves additional $3.3 billion aid for Israel. And the most important factor there is that was by huge majorities of both parties. So look at this, 153 Dems. Look at the date, January 14, 26. You can't, the genocide is full bore. We all know it's happening. You can't pretend it isn't. 153 to 57 Democrats voted in support of this. Carlos.
Jasmine Crockett voted in support of this?
She did. I actually have that slide. I didn't want to single her out, but since you asked,
she's in a tough Senate race, so.
Sean King actually brought this up on his now site. the North Star. But she, see, that's the problem. You know, she talks loud. She said some confrontational things people like, but the policies don't match, in my opinion, the rhetoric.
Really?
Her opponent, Tallarico, I believe, is also pro-Israel, although he didn't make this vote.
Yeah.
And he says a group. King says Jasmine Crockett and a group of Democrats. It's a little misleading. It's not a group. It's almost all of them.
Yeah, and the Democrats.
Yeah, right. And almost all Democrats. To their credit, the squad, the original squad, AOC, some of them are gone. Corey
She wasn't
Bush
even
is
original.
gone.
She was like
Bush was an add-on, right? She was an add-on.
Yeah, original
and Bowman was
AOC,
Bowman.
no, add-on too. Original was just AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Presley, just the four of them.
Well, they all voted against this.
Of course. I mean,
but they could get away right there. Nobody was telling them they had to.
Yeah, this is something. This is a small thing where it's like, hey, there's enough of us to move this. You all vote whatever you all have to for your constituency base. I don't really care. Now, if this was like a 50-50 vote, I'm sure some of them either just vote present or some of them flip over to yes. But in the end, I think it's safe to say, as someone just on the left, the squad is over. There is no more squad. We don't even hear them being talked about in this way. It is they are talked about as separate members of Congress. They are all separate people, and I think they all always were. And even when you have AOC and Ayanna Presley talk on media, they've always said, like, you all gave us this term of the squad. We did not call ourselves this as some group. But back to the I
just want to jump in though. That's very disingenuous of her to say, because they used to be filmed. They would take group photos and they would talk about, they were going to bring about, maybe they didn't use the term squad, but they clearly wanted it in the public eye that we're this young, dynamic group and we're going to make a difference.
Yeah. And then they would talk about adding other Congress people to it as they grew, where you get your Corey Bush, Jamal Bowman, and things of that nature. And then we see that as quickly as you're added in, it's also like, what was it? There was an interview with Corey Bush where she said that she was talking to Ayanna Presley, and then Ayanna Presley told her, like, I get that people see us as a group, but at the end of the day, it's just you and your constituents and your district, and you have to look out for that first. As if to tell her, like, look, we're not some group that we all vote and sync and stuff. Go do your own thing. And I think that's where the Freedom Caucus worked. The Freedom Caucus said, you vote with us or you're out.
Exactly. I also would just say this. I think what Presley said is very dishonest, because what the squad actually said they stood for was what was best for the constituents of each squad member. Yeah. Medicare for all, demanding a speaker other than Nancy Pelosi or a leader other than Hakeem Jeffries. That would actually benefit the people in Ayanna Presley's district, the people in AOC's district, and people in Corey Bush. It would benefit all of them. Yeah. And it would also benefit them if they all stood together. But so I find that very frustrating about that Presley said that.
No, you're right. It is. And I think even going back in my fault for changing it to the Israel funding, it's sad, but I guess I'm past sad, because it's not surprising still that these politicians are giving money hand over fist to Israel, because it's a norm for them. They believe that we have to continue funding this genocidal apartheid terrorist state. Because what did Jasmine Crockett say? Because it's been we've had this relationship with Israel before I was born. I'm like, right. Okay, so what? I mean,
well, that would justify slavery. You could use that argument, right? I mean,
hey,
this for generations.
I was born into
slavery.
So why should I fight against it? Like, if abolitionists had that view, we wouldn't have the abolitionist movement, because especially the white abolitionists would have just sat there and said, well, we saw slavery. My parents had slaves, or we had slavery when my parents were growing up. Now we have it now. Why should I fight against it?
Oh, it's a terrible.
It's a horrible. Or Jim Crow. We've had that for years.
Right.
Why should I fight against Jim Crow? Because it's always been here. It's just easier for people, I think, or politicians to push it to us as, well, this has been happening for like a long time, and it's foreign policy, and what American cares about foreign policy? But they're seeing now it's a good constituency of people who care. Now, is anything gonna change because of this? I don't know, because I see a lot of people, especially like the women off of the I've Had It podcast, talk about how like we're not voting for people who support Israel and things like that. I just wonder, is that actually going to equate to Democrats voting in the primary? Because we also know Democrats love a primary where people just say like platitudes and they vote for them. And I look at, it's like the open Steny Hoyer Congress seat here in Maryland. It's going to be interesting to say what any of the people say about Israel, because to my knowledge, currently, none of the candidates in their platforms have anything about Israel at all.
Well, it's just too toxic, because whatever you say, you say you're for Israel, then the rank and file voter is pissed off. If you say you're against Israel, you're just going to get crushed by AIPAC and pro-Israel donors. You mentioned this race. I was going to maybe wait, but since you mentioned it, we talked about Adrian Boafo. Boafo, I said, I don't want to say.
I always said it. Yeah, Boafo. I've heard other people say Boafo.
Like BWA, right? It could be like BWAFFO, Boafo, or Boafo. I don't know. I haven't heard it. We talked about him a little bit. And I had honestly no real opinion about Adrian Boafo, but he was endorsed by, or he's being endorsed by his former boss, Steny Hoyer. And I texted you, I guess he's out. I guess we ain't voting for him.
100%.
Is that fair? No, you think that's fair, right? Because you're saying, well, if Hoyer endorses you, you must not be very good.
Yeah, that's like if Obama endorses you, or like Hillary Clinton. That's like if Hillary Clinton endorses you. Great, I know where you're standing at already. What my biggest issue just is with a lot of these like endorsements and candidates that comes in is he doesn't even have a platform page up. Like there's no platform. Yeah. So like what are you endorsing other than just the idea or the personality of someone? To be like, you know what, Adrian, he's going to be a stand-up person because I just know him personally, and because of my relationship with him, I think he'll be good. Now, also, none of them say what good means, because it's always in the sense of like he'll be good for his constituents. What does that mean? Because 95%, I'll say this, 80% of elected officials' job is legislative. Outside of that, the other 20 is constituent services. If you're not going to tell me what you're going to do, and I'm sorry, it's hard to judge a politician's constituent services because it's not really them as a politician, it's more their office. But when it comes to legislation, that assumingly, if it's not a corporation writing the legislation for you, that is just you off the top of your dome. So if you don't have a platform page, how do I know what you're going to do? Like Steny Hoyer could be endorsing him, and then he come out and say, yeah, I think we should give ICE $2 billion of extra funding. Then what does he say? Oh, I didn't know he was going to do that. And not saying that's what he's saying either, but as an example.
But we don't know. Wait, he could say that. All right, we are just about out of time here on Halitics. It's always great to talk to Carlos, the left-handed leftist. And I didn't promote you enough, Carlos, today, but he does a great podcast as well. And it's on YouTube at Left-Handed Leftist. I think the link is in there. Also Instagram, TikTok.
We're on Spotify,
Young
Apple
kids.
Music. Apple, what is?
Yeah, you're always telling
Amazon,
me, Carlos is like, oh, you got to get on more platforms. You got to get on more platforms. It's too much work. I can't do it.
I know.
It's too much for me. Carlos, you're getting a little bit too old for TikTok, aren't you? I mean, that's sort of more the 13-year-old scene.
We're still. Look, we're all waiting for the next social media platform to be put out. That I'm like, all right, cool. I'm stuck on TikTok for right now. Nah, yeah,
Or
I've been
maybe
trying to push
TikTok
it
is
out.
aging, right?
It
TikTok,
is
because the
aging.
kids are going to want to find something different. They don't want to be
Yeah,
on with their older brothers or their uncles or something.
yeah, right.
All right.
The millennials
Before,
on there.
that's right. The millennials are just they're too old for them. All right. Before we go,
Mhm.
before we go, last word from you. Anything you want to promote? The Left Hand and Leftist. You got a show
Yeah.
coming up. What's going
Yeah,
on?
please. Everyone, this week we have a new show with Andy Ellis coming out. The trailer is actually out for the show now. You can find it on all different platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, etc., etc., etc. And it's with Andy Ellis. We're talking about a whole bunch of different things happening in Maryland. One of the main things is their bill to allow the Maryland Public Broadcasting Service to open up the governor debates so that we can have third parties a part of it. But also we talked about immigration, we talked about ICE, we talked about just the current governor of Maryland, Westmore, and so much more. So please check it out, comment, rate, all the buttons and clickers that you can do to show your support.
All right. I want to thank Carlos, as always, for joining us on Halitics. And I will be back tomorrow. It'll just be me, but then again, or just be I tomorrow. But then we'll have Steve Snyder, retired. I want to get the right title. Because I say former, but it's not former. He served there many years as a Justice Department lawyer, very, very well regarded, very good lawyer for many years. We're going to talk to him more Wednesday about the execution style killing of Alex Preddy. Thank you, Carlos. Thanks to all for being part of Halitics. I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy.